Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind Shop. It is very common for a draw knob to fall off the end of a tuning slide. Those are very easy to solder on. I will show you how to do that. If you do not know much about soldering, look in the description below for a link to videos on Introduction to Soldering. These are the tools you'll need to do the job. A torch. I have an acetylene torch, but there are other types of torches that will work. On this one, you can easily do this job with a butane torch. You'll need a rag to clean up the old solder. And for solder, I have the stuff that does not have the flux core. I have liquid flux that I use for that. This is liquid acid flux, and that works well on musical instruments. And you will need a solder clamp to hold on the draw knob. And of course, safety glasses. Always use safety glasses when you solder. A slide expander, I use that for holding the part while I work on it. You do not need one, but it is handy to have it. Also, you need something to hold the parts while you're working on them. And I have this bench vise that I use, and I use that for holding the parts while I clean them off. And then I also use it for holding the slide expander when I'm working on the slide. I have the draw knob in the vise, and I'm going to start up the torch, and I have the rag here. I'm putting it around my finger. I'm going to clean it up. So I heat it up to temperature, and then when I see it melting, I clean it up. Okay, that is clean. I'm going to wait a little while for that to cool off. The draw knob is cooled off, so I'm going to get that out, and then I'm going to clean it up with some sandpaper. And what that does is it cleans up all the stuff around the edges, because I did notice there are a few places that were tarnished around there, and that's probably why it came off, because the solder joint did not stick all the way. So that is cleaned off. You need clean surfaces to work on, because solder does not stick to anything other than clean metal. Now I'm going to clean up the solder on the tuning slide. I'm going to put that in there and put it in the vise. This solder needs to get cleaned up too. I'm not going to use the sandpaper to clean up this joint because it will probably ruin the lacquer also. So what I'm going to use is a triangular knife, also known as a solder scraper, and I'm going to clean up wherever it is going to touch the draw knob. Just need to clean it so that there's clean metal all the way around wherever the draw knob will make contact with the tuning slide. A lot of times if the draw knob is broken off, there will be a dent underneath where the draw knob is supposed to go. In this case there is not, but if there is, you need to get that dent out before you solder the draw knob on. I'm going to put the draw knob on there, and I'm going to hold it down with a solder clamp. And I will put a link in the description below where you can get a solder clamp and the other tools. I need to make sure that this is lined up. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of heat to it and then add the flux, just a little drop. Actually, that was probably a little too much that went on there. Then heat it up a little more and put just a tiny little bit of solder in there. That's too much. Try it again. Okay, and that is good, I think. I think the solder went all the way around. Looks like it did. It's a few minutes later and the solder joint has cooled down, so I'm going to take that off of there. I have a spray bottle with 1 part of ammonia to 3 parts of water, and what that does is it neutralizes the flux so that the flux stops eating away at the metal. I sprayed that on there to neutralize the flux. Now I'm going to clean that up. The flux is neutralized, so the solder joint is almost done. One thing though, you can see that there's a little bead of solder. I put too much solder in there, so I have to clean that up. This may pop right off. I'm going to use a screwdriver just to see if, okay, there, it came right off. You can heat up the solder and clean it off with a rag also, but the chances are that the draw knob is probably going to become unsoldered again if you do that. What I look for in this solder joint is to make sure that the solder goes all the way around the draw knob, and it does. Also, I want to make sure that there's not excess solder coming out from everywhere. On this type of solder joint, it's very easy to use way too much solder. It's best if you use the exact right amount of solder and do not need to clean up anything on that. If you are new to soldering, watch my other videos on soldering, and also it's a good idea to practice on a junk instrument first before you start working on good instruments. I hope this video has been helpful. Please subscribe for more band instrument repair videos.